Welcome to our Intro to Trigonometry lesson featuring sine, cosine, and tangent. Please make sure that you have your calculator in degree mode for this lesson and activity. So what exactly is sine, cosine, and tangent? Each of these are mathematical functions of right triangles and can be used to find the measures of missing side lengths and missing angles. So to find a missing side length, each trig function is made up of a ratio of two sides. So we have our hypotenuse, which is always the longest side of the triangle, an opposite and an adjacent side. So let's examine the triangle on the left. We will start by identifying the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the longest side of the triangle, also always opposite the right angle. For this diagram, we will label that as lowercase h. Next, we will identify the side opposite the angle. In this example, we are going to refer to angle A. The side opposite angle A is on the other side of the triangle. We will label this as lowercase a. Lastly, the remaining side of the triangle is the adjacent side. So next to angle A, we have letter B. Sine of angle A is the ratio of the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. So using the labels from our diagram, we have A over H. Cosine of angle A is the ratio of the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. So here we have side B over the hypotenuse H. And lastly, tangent of angle A is the ratio of the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. So for this diagram, we have A over B. Over the years, teachers have developed an acronym to help students remember the order of the ratios. They have come up with SO, CA, TOA. When you read the letters from left to right, you have sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. By remembering SO, CA, TOA, this will help you solve for all missing sides and angles of a right triangle. All right, for this first example, we're going to use the sine function to solve for x. From angle 28 degrees, we will start by identifying the given sides. Remember to use labels as O for opposite, A for adjacent, and H for hypotenuse. Since x is opposite angle 28, we can label that with the letter O. 19 is across from the right angle, so we can label that with H for hypotenuse. Since there is no value on the adjacent side, we can choose not to label it. This will be helpful later. So using what we have O and H, we can determine which trig function to use. So in step 2, ask yourself, which of the three-part acronym uses both O and H? So has both O and H in it. Therefore, S stands for sine. In the third step, we will be setting up our ratio from the beginning of the lesson. The angle measure always comes after the trig function. So we will write sine 28 is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse, which is x over 19. In order to isolate x, we must multiply 19 to both sides of our equation. To ease some confusion, it is easier to multiply 19 to the front of the trig function. You will then type 19 sine 28 into your scientific calculator, and the result will be the answer to solving for x. So if you need help typing this in, please watch the embedded video for how to type it into your calculator. For the majority of this lesson, you can go ahead and round your answers to one decimal place. So in this case, x is equal to 8.9. For this next example, you will repeat the same 4-step process. So start by identifying and labeling the given sides. So from angle 21, we have x is our adjacent side, so next to the given angle. And then 26 is our hypotenuse. Given A and H, determine which part of the acronym you will use. So A and H goes with cosine. Again, we will set up our equation. So the angle goes after the trig function, and then A over H becomes x over 26. To isolate x, multiply 26 to both sides and write 26 in front of the trig function. And then remember to round your answer to 1 decimal place. So our answer should be 24.3. The last of our 3 trig functions is tangent. So after labeling your triangle, you can see that x is the opposite angle 55, and that 8 is the adjacent side to angle 55. So the part of the acronym that uses both O and A is tangent. Set up your equation like so, and then we will solve for x. So again, 8 goes to the front. After rounding to 1 decimal place, we should get x is equal to 11.4. So on this slide, there are 3 practice problems for you to try. You will insert text boxes to label O, A, or H on each of the triangles, just like we did in step 1 of the 3 previous examples. And then you will drag the circle over to which trig function you would use, just like we did in step 2. Moving on to steps 3 and 4, for the same 3 problems, you're going to set up the equation like we did in step 3. Using the trig function you identified from the previous slide, where it says to solve and isolate for x, write what you would type into the calculator, and then finally you'll use the calculator to solve for x. Make sure to round all answers to 1 decimal place. On this slide, you can check your responses from the practice problems by dragging the green box just out of the way. And there are the answers to steps 1 through 4 from those 3 practice problems. And then on this last slide, please describe which of the 4-step process you are still struggling with, and please be as specific as possible. And then as a bonus activity, go ahead and create your own saying that goes with SOHCAHTOA acronym that will help you remember the order of the letters. And then up next, we are going to review the trig functions from today, so sine, cosine, and tangent. Then we will be learning how to calculate trig functions when x is on the bottom of the fraction. Today's lesson only covered when x was on the top. And then using trig functions to solve for missing angles. And that's it.